Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Andres Cavalier. I'm a communicator at the Inter-American Development Bank. As you know, crime and violence are critical challenges for the development of countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. Criminal organizations around the region are impacting millions of lives and businesses. We have two experts to talk about these topics today. Renée Mitchell, co-founder and president of the American Society for Evidence-Based Policing from the United States, and Mark Shaw, who is from South Africa and the director of the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crimes. Renée and Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Mark, let me start with you to give some context to the conversation. Can you tell me a little bit about the types of market crimes that are impacting Latin America and the Caribbean the most? And are those different from other parts of the world?
Drug crimes, cocaine remains the major market within Latin America. It has changed over time, affecting more countries, but there's really a rapid growth in a number of other crime types: illicit mining, environmental crime, migrant smuggling, trafficking of human beings, counterfeits, and trade in a variety of other illicit substances. So the picture is very diverse in Latin America. It varies in different countries, but generally we measure crime through an organized crime index, and Latin America has a level of seriousness above the global average when you tally up all the data that we have.
And what are the key areas in which countries should focus to address these problems?
I think what's happening globally, and you see that in Latin America, is the complexity of criminal markets is increasing, and generally states and societies are not very well placed to understand what's going on. Firstly, there remains still a very important challenge of collecting data and analyzing it properly, and that still is a big weakness generally in the study of illicit markets and organized crime. Secondly, to use that data to bring people together to determine strategies. The work that has been done shows countries that have strategies against organized crime, strategies mobilize resources, they bring people together, are much more successful in the medium term in bringing about a response. And what you really need is both a law enforcement response within the rule of law, with a high level of integrity, as well as a societal response. And you have to get that together, and it needs political leadership. And I think that's generally the consensus about how to respond to a very complex set of crimes and environment, not only in this region, but globally.
Thank you, Mark. And Renée, with this context, what are the critical aspects that security and justice institutions need to strengthen?
So I actually think that was really well said about the rule of law, because I think, and with integrity and involving the community, because often people think, oh, the rule of law, I'm just going to go in, arrest everybody and solve the problem. But you actually have to do it in a way to where you're strengthening the police department to do things with integrity, with evidence-based practices, and you have to do it through the whole criminal justice pipeline. So you really need to strengthen like the officers and then also with the community. But I think that as you do like good training with the officers, you give them a good salary-based pay, and then you support them with their communities. Like you build that sustainability all throughout the whole process of the criminal justice system.
Okay. You are yourself a former police officer, and now you do research.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit, what is it that you do and why evidence-based policing is so important?
So one of the reasons I got into it is because I realized like evidence-based research and figuring out if what we do in the field actually works is really important. It's like medicine, right? That we came from an era of anecdotes of what we thought worked, and then we use science to figure out, okay, do our theories actually work in the field? So what I see for evidence-based policing is taking the theories that we have, for example, arresting, different types of people and how long we sentence them. You could look at the data and examine, is that really working in the ways that we want in a cost effective way? So those are the pieces that I really think that all of the hypotheses we have around the criminal justice field, most of them can be tested and evaluated and determine what's best for the community, what's best for the officers, and then what's most cost effective for the nation, the state, or the city that's paying for public safety.
And can your learnings in the United States be implemented in Latin America and the Caribbean? And what would be one example of things that our policies that policymakers should be implementing?
So yes, it can be implemented. I would also say that when you implement that, you should test to make sure that it works the same ways. And one of the examples is really like hotspot policing. It's focusing on places of high crime and high calls for service and doing like 15 minutes of high visibility patrols. And I think that's a fundamental part of policing is a patrol, a community patrol. So in some shape or form within Latin America, you should be able to implement something like that. But it is just a matter of like, how does that work for that agency in that city, you know, in that country?
Thank you so much, Renée. And Mark, just to finish, can you give us one example of a recommendation that you would implement in Latin America and the Caribbean based on the work of the initiative?
Yes, I think we are concerned not only here, but Latin America certainly has that problem of prisons being a reservoir of organized crime, performing exactly the opposite function they were created to. So bringing high-level criminals together who cooperate, who continue to run their criminal business, and who then perpetuate a set of criminal organizations. And we think that's an urgent area to intervene. It's around prison management, but it's also about reducing the number of low-level offenders in prisons. It's about a range of security measures being put in place. I think that for Latin America would be really a key priority.
Thank you so much, Mark and Renée. This is really fascinating. So I really appreciate your time. I want to invite you to follow our social media networks if you want to learn more about what the IDB does in citizen security. Thank you.